What if I told you that one of the most unique reptiles on Earth is being systematically erased, not by hunters or habitat loss, but by something as invisible as the temperature of the ocean? Picture a creature that looks like it's from another world. A dragon-like lizard draped in black and red, clinging to volcanic rock under a fierce equatorial sun. But this is no ordinary reptile. This is the marine iguana, the only lizard on Earth that forages in the ocean. For millions of years, it has been a master of survival in the harsh Galápagos Islands. But now, its ancient adaptations are turning against it. Because the very ocean that feeds it is beginning to starve it, this isn't a story of a sudden disaster. It's a slow, creeping crisis, one that most people will never see. But for the marine iguana, climate change isn't a future threat. It's a present-day reality, and it's rewriting the rules of life in the Galápagos. To understand why this iguana is so vulnerable, you first have to understand how perfectly it evolved for a world that no longer exists. The Galápagos are a chain of volcanic islands where life is tough. Fresh water is scarce. Food on land is limited. So long ago, the marine iguana did something no other lizard dared. It went into the sea. It developed flattened tails for swimming, sharp claws for gripping slippery rocks, and special glands to excrete salt from its body. Its main food became the algae that grow on submerged rocks. A niche all its own for centuries, this worked beautifully. The iguanas would bask in the sun to raise their body temperature, then dive into the cool water to feed. They could slow their heart rate to stay submerged for up to an hour. They were, in every sense, perfectly engineered for their environment, but that perfection came at a cost. They became specialists, exquisitely tuned to a very specific set of conditions. And when those conditions began to shift, the marine iguana had nowhere to hide. The first major threat comes from the water itself. Marine iguanas are ectotherms, cold-blooded animals that rely on their environment to regulate their body temperature. To dive and feed, they need to be warm. To digest their food, they need to be warm. But here's the problem. As the ocean warms due to climate change, the algae they depend on begin to die off. Warmer water encourages the growth of less nutritious algal species, and in some cases, toxic blooms can poison the iguana's only food source. When El Niño events strike, which are becoming more frequent and intense, the situation becomes dire. During strong El Niños, the water temperature can rise several degrees, the algae vanish, and the iguanas starve. In past events, populations have crashed by up to 90% in just a few months. They literally shrink, their bones shorten as their bodies consume themselves to stay alive. It's a survival strategy, but it's a desperate one. And when the food returns, it takes years for the population to recover. But now, with back-to-back warm events, they don't get those years. The second threat is more subtle, but just as deadly. Rising sea levels and intensifying storms are eroding the rocky coastlines where marine iguanas nest. Females dig burrows in the sand or soft soil above the high tide line to lay their eggs. But as sea levels creep upward, storm surges are flooding these nests, drowning the developing embryos. In some areas, entire colonies have failed to produce young for multiple seasons. No new generation means no future, and then there's the third, invisible threat, their own biology. Because marine iguanas are so specialized, they have very little genetic diversity. This makes them incredibly vulnerable to disease. A warming climate could introduce new pathogens or parasites that their immune systems have never encountered. A single outbreak could wipe out an entire island population, and there's evidence this may already be happening. But this isn't just a story of loss. It's also a story of surprising resilience. Marine iguanas have shown an almost miraculous ability to adapt in real time. Researchers have observed some individuals changing their feeding behavior, diving deeper or foraging at different times of day to avoid the warmest water. Others have been seen eating other food sources, like crustaceans or even land plants, a radical shift for a dedicated algal grazer. The question is, can they adapt fast enough? Evolution usually works over thousands of years. Climate change is transforming their world in decades. For a long-lived, slow-reproducing animal, that may simply be too fast. What happens next to the marine iguana will tell us a lot about the fate of other specialized species in a warming world. They are a living barometer, a symbol of how finely tuned life can be and how fragile that tuning becomes when the world changes around it. Their struggle is a silent one. There are no loud protests, no last-minute rescues. Just a slow, steady decline playing out on remote shorelines, far from human eyes. But their story is also a reminder that life is tenacious. That even in the face of overwhelming odds, nature finds a way to fight back. The marine iguana has survived volcanic eruptions, sea level changes, and millennia of isolation. It now faces its greatest test. Which other climate-vulnerable species do you think deserves more attention? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your suggestion could be the focus of our next deep dive into the wild.